And good morning, everyone. Hey, so we've got a new month, and this month we're going to talk all about conscious evolution. We're going to consciously evolve this month. You ready? We're all going to consciously evolve. Now, when we think about evolution, we usually think about it in terms of the species, Earth species, growing into smarter, more effective versions of itself. Usually has to do with, response to the environment. Genetic mutation is a process that happens over a long period of time, right? This is usually like the basic of how we think of evolution. But conscious evolution refers to humanity. And it is really our ability to consciously participate in our own evolution. We can evolve our thinking. We can lift our consciousness consciously. We can have a clearer understanding of the world around us, of the people around us. We can have a deeper understanding of what divides us, what might cause inequities among us, what threatens our feeling and experience of oneness. This we can consciously do. And, some might call this waking up. We do that too. It's the idea of waking up. Or dare I say, woke. Which I have to say, right, that word, that beautiful idea has somehow, become this negative word in the mouths of some, on the extreme end of things. But when you think about it, what is the opposite of woke, of being awake? It's asleep, right? It's asleep. So that's our choice. We can either choose to be awake and stay awake, or we can choose to sleep, to be asleep. And the person who wrote this passage that I'm going to read about conscious evolution on the Wikipedia page was woke, I think, and said this: conscious evolution suggests that now that humanity is conscious of its history and how things evolve, evolutionary consciousness, and given the rapid pace of change in society and culture, humanity can and should choose advancement through cooperation, co-creation, and sustainable practices over self-destruction through separateness, competition, and ecological devastation. So that's what we talk about here, right? That's very much in alignment with what we're thinking about. Now, conscious evolution can also be seen through the eyes of spiral dynamics. We had Reverend Pat Venema, who came to speak to us a couple months ago about spiral dynamics. She's written a book about it, Spiral Dynamics in the Bible. And what it is a model of evolutionary development. The development of a basic worldview in a cultural context. And it's a spiral. The model is a spiral. It's spiraling ever upward. And the idea is to include and transcend the previous level. And we're going to talk more about that later on this month. But just know that it's really a helpful tool to help us see and understand other people and ourselves, minus the judgment part. It can be very helpful. Now, ultimately, conscious evolution is really about spiritual growth, growing into our full divine potential. The point is to evolve our understanding of who and what we truly are, that we are each emanations, beautiful expressions of this one divine life. That so we want to deepen that understand, not just the understanding, but the experience of it, right? The experience of it. We want to embody that understanding. And that's why we come together and, through the music and the meditation and the open hearts and the discussion, all of that together helps us to embody these ideas that we talk about here. And when we do, then we begin to notice that our orientation towards life is beginning to evolve. That we're orienting ourselves, it's changing from an orientation of life is a series of problems to be solved to life is a celebration of love. A celebration of love. That's quite a different orientation. It's a different view, different paradigm. Now, of course, we know life is a mystery. This has us scratching our heads sometimes. It's like, really? What is going on? Why? And that's really because we can't see the whole picture. But if we learn to trust that the impulse of life is to grow into greater and greater expressions of itself, greater and greater good, then we can relax into that. And then we see what we once thought of as a problem, we see it as a possibility to discover. So I want you to think about a problem that you might have, a challenge that you're facing in your life. And just choose one. Focus in on one. Let me think about that. Everybody got one? If not, I can lend you one of mine. Okay. Now, take that and just put it on the shelf just a little bit. Just right out of reach for just a moment. And see if you can reorient your understanding that impulse of life within you is one of growing into greater and greater experiences of good. That's the impulse of life within you, within all of us, within all of nature, within all of life. Now, take that problem, challenge, and see if you can view it differently. Breathe into that. See if you can see it as a possibility of tremendous good that can be revealed in the situation. And you may want to prompt it with some questions. Questions you can ask like, I wonder what blessing is right now revealing itself in this experience? Or what possibility can be realized here? Or you may want to ask, how can I be a blessing to others in this situation? So let's affirm these ideas together, just so we get it really in our consciousness, we begin to embody it. So repeat after me. What blessings are being realized here? What blessings are being realized here? What possibility can emerge in this situation? What possibility can emerge in this situation? And finally, how can I be a blessing to others in this situation? How can I be a blessing to others in this situation? Take a deep breath together. Just feel that sinking in, embodying, and feel it having an influence over those things that, we just think are problems, challenges, that's getting me stuck. Opening up with some questions that might help us just reorient ourselves. That's what we want to do. Okay. So this process of conscious evolution can also be seen as an uncovering or a revealing of the truth that has always been here. The truth that we are divinely human beings, beautiful emanations of this one divine light, right? In process of remembering that. And the thing is that mankind has been asleep to this truth. Yeah, right? From the beginning of time, right? With the exceptions of, some wonderful mystics and spiritual masters throughout history, but still, most of mankind, we're asleep, right? To the truth of who we truly are. And because of that, we have developed mechanisms that we think can get us through life, that we think will keep us safe. These mechanisms, right? But if we're ignorant to the truth, to our true source, to the truth of who we are, and we think of ourselves as separate from source, separate from others, separate from our good, or we think of ourselves as a mess to be fixed, or, somehow lacking, or maybe a miserable sinner, which unfortunately a lot of people have, grown up, believing that, then those mechanisms are just going to keep us stuck. They're going to hold us back from the experience of true freedom and cause a lot of problems. It can cause a lot of problems. And so what we're really talking about here is a paradigm shift, right? Conscious evolution is really about letting go of the old paradigm. Letting go of the old paradigm, the belief in separation, and evolving our understanding of who we truly are. The true source, which reveals the original self with a capital S, and reveals the innate wholeness. That innate pattern of wholeness within us is revealed. But here's the thing. It's sometimes difficult to let go of the old paradigm. Right? It's hard because it's human nature. We want to hold on to the old, right? We're familiar with this. We're comfortable with this over here. Don't want to let go of that. It's sometimes difficult to let go of the known for the unknown. But if we cling to that old paradigm, again, it's just going to cause some problem. It can hurt us, and it could hurt others. So recently, I was remembering this movie, Contact. Do you remember with Jodie Foster, the movie Contact? So 1997, this movie came out. Jodie Foster is a scientist and astronomer. Matthew McConaughey is the boyfriend, right? They're both young and gorgeous in this movie. And so she is part of the SETI program, which is the SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which I actually was, right? It was part, but then they lost the government funding, and that's sort of reflected in this movie. It's a fringe thing, you're not getting any funding. It's actually still exists as a nonprofit. So anyway, they're all listening for years and years. They got these array of telescopes that are listening to all the sounds from the universe. And nothing's coming through, nothing's coming. It's a lot of patience, take a lot of patience for astronomers to find things. And then suddenly there's a signal, and it's really strong, and it's really definite, and they have a location for it. Well, then, all this drama ensues, and everybody wants a piece of it, right? The government, the military, religious fanatics, are protesting, and, it's all this chaos that ensues. Everybody wants a piece of it or is protesting it. And so they finally discovered that the signal is really a blueprint. It's a blueprint for a spaceship, a vessel that is going to carry one passenger to the planet where the signal is coming from, for whatever, to meet the aliens. We don't know, right? And so Jodie Foster volunteers. She actually gets it the second time around. There's somebody else that kind of beats her to it unethically, but he's blown up. So I don't want to reveal too much of the movie. So anyway, they build a second one, and you're like, okay, goodbye. So there's a second vessel, and so they okay her to go. Now, the scientists, the engineers who are building this, they're following the blueprint that's come from the aliens, from this advanced technology, but they just think they need to add something else. They gotta put a seat in there and, bolt it down in order to keep her safe, right? And strap her in with, safety belt. Now, this is not part of the original design. So it's the old paradigm, right? It's they can't let go of the old paradigm of how else were we going to keep her safe? What's going to keep her safe if she's not bolted in and strapped in? Got to have that, right? They can't trust. They can't trust the new paradigm that's from the advanced technology. Well, Jodie Foster does, and she learns to trust it. Okay, so she's in there, she's strapped in, all systems are go, and this thing is beautiful. It's got all these rings, and it turns and turns and turns, and it doesn't really go anywhere. It goes into a different dimension, is what it is. And so she's in this seat, and it's shaking and shaking and shaking, even was shaking so violently that you think she's not going to survive this. And it shakes so much that it shakes a locket that's around her neck off. And this is a very meaningful locket to her. Her boyfriend gave it to her. It's like a good luck thing. And so she notices that it's floating nicely. It's not shaking. It's just floating out here. And so she's like, wow. And she pulls off, she pulls off the straps, gets out of the chair to grab the locket. And in that moment, the chair it pulls off of its mooring and it slams against the wall, breaking into a million pieces. Had she stayed there a second longer, that would have happened to her. But she trusted, and she got this locket. And she survives, and she goes on this amazing adventure, which I won't tell you. You have to watch the movie to see what transpires after that. You can find it. It's like, on any streaming service, you can find it. It's great. So the idea, again, is that the human builders could not trust. They couldn't let go of the old paradigm. They just couldn't trust that there was, and they couldn't see it. So the question we want to ask ourselves is, what old paradigm? What is holding us back? What part of that old paradigm is holding us back? What part of that old thinking, what is holding us back from trusting a new paradigm? From moving forward and expressing more of our full potential? What fear is stopping us? And where do we want things to be the way that they've always been? Some areas in our life, we just want things to be the way they've always been. Yeah. right? But we know that they change. We know that for sure. That's the certain thing, right? That's the thing that doesn't change, is that everything changes. Everything changes. So we want to adapt to those changes from the most evolved place possible so that we can respond with wisdom and love. And so the next question is, what is calling you to evolve? What is calling you to consciously evolve into? What new paradigm is calling you? What new paradigm is calling us? How about love? Loving each other, loving our planet, recognizing that infinite love exists within us, has always been within us and within everyone. Recognizing that there's a higher possibility of living a more abundant, joyous life and to follow our inner guidance to create ways to create that life that we see, that higher possibility. How about the idea that we are here to serve an emerging paradigm? This emerging possibility. There is a new paradigm that is emerging here, right? This is our evolution. This is what we're evolving into. A new paradigm of interconnectedness, of loving community, of honoring our differences, of honoring our oneness, of respect and love for our planet. So we can either choose to be in alignment with that, to be of service to that emerging paradigm, or we can choose to ignore it, or get in the way of it, or thwart it somehow, all to our peril. But that's our choice, right? It's our choice. We can either choose to be of service to this new emerging consciousness, this new emerging paradigm, because that's what we're moving into. That's our evolution, right? Or we don't, and we destroy ourselves. We shrink back into that old paradigm, and we destroy ourselves. I mean, think of, animals, species that have for some reason not been able to adapt, to evolve to a new environment, to a new paradigm. What happens? They die out. They go extinct. So our call is to move into, open up to, recognize, become conscious, consciously evolve, and be of service to this new emerging paradigm. Kind of an important choice. And time is of the essence. Time is of the essence. So it makes sense to maybe think about, rearranging priorities in our lives and creating ways that we can be of service to this emerging paradigm. This new experience of an evolved consciousness, of interconnection, of loving community, of generosity of spirit, of accepting differences, of listening to each other, of being of service to this idea of a greater experience of life. Yes? All right. So we're going to talk more about this throughout the month and ways that we can begin to do this, I think that's enough to chew on for the first Sunday this month. All right. Namaste.